Hi, welcome back to Psalms today. We're looking at Psalm 9. Now, interestingly, just an introductory comment, Psalms 9 and 10 seem to, or maybe originally, have been combined as one psalm. The reason I mention that, just a couple of things to notice here. You've got a superscription at the top of Psalm 9. Unusually, for the first part of the book of Psalms, there isn't one at the top of Psalm 10. And also at the end of Psalm 9, if you look down here at the end here, verse 20, there's a Selah, which is normally within a psalm, sort of a pause, reflect, think about what you're reading. Unusually, I think the only time in the book of Psalms that you get a Selah right at the end of a psalm is at the end of Psalm 9. And the whole thing seems to be sort of an acrostic, where each line is beginning with a next letter in the alphabet kind of a concept, each section. But it's not quite exact. If it was, that would be an absolute giveaway. But, well, if you read the Hebrew, I suppose. But it's not exact. It's sort of like a broken acrostic. It seems to have something of that going on. Anyway, those things put together kind of make you wonder whether Psalm 9 and 10 were originally one psalm. So when you read Psalm 9, just keep going. Read Psalm 10 as well. And then next time, drop back and read 9 first. 9 is really an upbeat psalm of thanksgiving, whereas Psalm 10 is crying out to God really about the violence and the wickedness. It becomes more of a cry rather than a celebration or a thanksgiving. It's not really a celebration. So here's what I want us to notice right at the kind of middle of the psalm. Just take this little section here, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I want you to see how Hebrew poetry is built using a very basic building block. For us in English, for our poetry, we were taught about rhyme and meter and so on, old-fashioned poetry. In Hebrew poetry, they build the psalms or the poems with parallelisms. It's where you've got a pair of lines, sometimes 3, 4, 5, whatever, but typically 2 lines that are working together. The most basic form of parallelism we have right here, verses 8 and 9, where the second line is essentially saying the same thing as the first line. So notice in verse 8, he judges the world, the peoples is kind of saying the same thing, with righteousness, with uprightness. So it's not an exact repetition, you don't find that, but you find similar concepts, similar words to reinforce the first line. So the idea is communicated through the pair of lines together. The same sort of thing happens in 9. The Lord is a stronghold for the oppressed, there we go, in times of trouble. Slightly different wording, but essentially reinforcing the same point. So sometimes the second line reinforces the first line by essentially saying the same thing. It's technically called synonymous parallelism, don't worry about that. So essentially saying the same thing. Sometimes the second line goes a step further and it develops the thought. Okay, we're going to see examples of that here in verse 7 and verse 10. So the Lord sits enthroned. There's his throne there. So the Lord sits enthroned forever. Now, the forever, I think, kind of connects here to this. It has established the sense of permanence. So we've got this connection going on here. His forever established throne. But this bit feels new. Why has he established his throne? It's for justice. Come down to verse 10, and this is a little, probably the most complicated of these verses, but those who know your name, in the second line we've got those who seek you. So that could be the parallel there. Those who know your name put their trust in you. You go, well, actually, that's kind of similar as well to those who seek you. Yeah, it is. But this is the extra bit, I suppose, in the second line. For you, O Lord, have not forsaken. Okay, so sometimes you'll have 2 lines where the second line is essentially saying the same thing. Sometimes you'll get the second line developing the thought further. And there's other types of parallelism that we'll see later on. But in terms of application, just keeping our focus on these 8 lines here, notice how the first 4 are working together to speak of God's enthronement and justice. He's in charge. And there's benefit for those who are oppressed in times of trouble, the ones who know him, who put their trust in him, who seek him. What's the bottom line that I really want us to not forget? God does not forsake. He has not forsaken those of us who in a weak position are looking to his throne for justice. That's an encouragement in the troubles and struggles of life. I'm thankful that God's in charge, and his in chargeness is for us as we lean in to him. So take a look at Psalm 9. Feel free to sneak into Psalm 10 as well. Share your highlights with others. Encourage people with this psalm, and maybe drop some comments in the section below this video so that we can interact together. Thank you so much. Next time, Psalm 10.